Sticking with sports, it was the shortest offseason in NBA history for LeBron James and defending champion Los Angeles Lakers. The new season gets underway tonight when they take on their crosstown rivals, the Clippers. It's been a little more than 2 months since the Lakers beat Miami for the title, but with the resurgence of COVID-19 this winter, can the league pull off a season outside of the bubble? Bloomberg Quicktake reporter Jennifer Zabasaja joins us now to discuss. Hey, Jen, the big question I have about this is why isn't the league going with a bubble this time around? It seemed to work so well over the summer.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, Tim. I mean, so many people are asking that question, right? Especially because, as you mentioned, the bubble was so successful. People were applauding the league for what they did. And so what we're hearing from Adam Silver is a few different things. So what he has said, essentially, which completely makes sense, is that being in the bubble for many of the players felt a little bit isolating, right? They weren't allowed to see their families. They felt cooped up in this bubble space, even though it did give them the opportunity to be safe and the coaches and the staff to be safe. So it did a number on their emotional well-being, but he also points to a few other factors. So economic factors, for instance, the league is not making money if they're in the bubble. And so if they're back at their arenas, there's an opportunity for them to bring in a little bit more revenue. But not only that, there's thousands of workers who, of course, as you know, Tim, probably if you've been to an NBA game, who rely on these NBA arenas to be operational in order for their livelihoods. And so Adam Silver is saying that he has confidence in the new safety protocols that the league has put in place. And he's hoping that outside of the bubble, they are going to be able to maintain safety among all the players, among all the coaching staff. But as you mentioned, it's going to be a lot different, of course, as the virus resurges in the winter and we see teams traveling to different cities and to different arenas. So it's really going to have to be something that we're going to watch closely.
Yeah, this is really surprising for me to see, Jen. I know it was tough on the players and their families, of course, but at the same time, it works so well. And it seems like it's a really tough thing to kind of have both ways because this virus is so transmissible. What are we learning about how else the season will be different than last year's season and different from a normal NBA season?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, as you mentioned, the time that they decided to come back is much shorter than previous seasons, right? And so it was only 2 months that they had a break. But then this season is also going to be shorter. It's about 10 games shorter for teams instead of the 82 games that they typically play. It's going to be about 72 games. But then also, when we talk about COVID safety protocols, Adam Silver has put in some pretty strict protocols for teams to follow. So players, coaches, and staff are to be tested at least once a day. In many cases, they will be tested twice a day. If there is a positive test, he has said that they are going to be put in some sort of isolation, some sort of quarantine, and you're going to need at least two negative tests within a span of 24 hours before you return to playing. And teams also could face penalties if they don't follow some of these rules. So there's things like fines for the teams if they're not following the safety protocols. There's also instances where they could lose draft picks. And so there's a lot hanging on this for teams to follow these rules. And of course, I mean, they're probably even concerned about their own safety. But not only that, Tim, probably one of the biggest differences with this season from the last season that we saw in the bubble is that some teams are allowing fans back into the arenas. So not all of the teams, there's about 6 is what the NBA is saying, that about 6 teams are starting with fans this season. But it's not many fans, but it's still a few more people, of course, than we saw last season because, of course, everyone was virtual. And so I think the highest number of fan attendance that I saw was at the Houston Rockets arena, which is going to allow about 4,500 people. But some teams are opting to not play with fans starting out. Some teams are opting to allow just family and friends back into the arena. And so it's going to be an interesting season. The playoffs are going to go even later into July. And so, you know, I think a lot of people are excited to see players, the NBA, back again. But of course, everyone wants to make sure that everyone is staying safe, especially with the resurgence of this virus.
Yeah, if there is one league that can pull it off, it's the NBA. They proved that last year. But just given the resurgence of the virus, how transmissible this is, I have a tough time seeing how this goes off without a hitch. Bloomberg Quicktake reporter Jennifer Zabasaja in Brooklyn. Jen, thanks as always for your time.